It's hard to believe that it's been over a year since I've made a video. I could try to blame it on the universe or the state of the planet or something, but if I'm being honest with myself, the bulk of the responsibility just flat out falls on me. I can't blame anyone for that. Anyway, as I began thinking about making videos again recently with Jonathan, I started kind of thinking about why exactly I hadn't made any for so long, and that got me thinking about why I hadn't done so many other things. And really, it all led to a lot of thoughts about diligence, and specifically why I am not diligent. Hi, I'm Thomas, and like a lot of people, I am not always the most self-disciplined. And this thinking about my lack of diligence in doing physical things led me to start pondering my equally lacking spiritual diligence, and that is a thing that's a tad more dangerous than a lack of physical diligence. That's just kind of a negative thing, but once you start thinking about spiritual diligence, that is dangerous, truly. So I started thinking about how there'd been a lot of things that I wanted to do, that I knew I should do, but I didn't. Things like start and keep a consistent daily Bible reading habit. Even though I'd wanted to do that for years, even now I probably miss more days than I keep. And beyond that, there are a lot of questions that I want to ask myself, that I want to take the time to think about, things that are important, major spiritual questions that I haven't gotten to. Or studies that I know I wanted to do, that I know would be beneficial, but I haven't done. And failing to do these things has cost me spiritually quite a lot, and has also prevented me from being able to share the gospel the way I should be. So I guess the question I'm trying to ask is, how, being so convicted that I need to do these things, am I not doing them? There's kind of a disconnect there, and either it's a problem of focus or there's something else there. So what I started doing is I started looking to the Bible for answers, which is generally a good thing to do, and I started going down quite the rabbit hole. What started out as a simple study of diligence turned into a lot of other things, which maybe I'll cover in a different video, but my goal was essentially I wanted to look and see what the Bible had to say about diligence and how I could use it to live a more self-disciplined life. So the Bible has a lot of passages on diligence, but I found that a lot of them weren't the most, I don't want to say applicable, relevant, because it all can be applicable or relevant, but most of them didn't speak to me very much because, there are a lot of verses saying that you should be diligent. Diligence is good. Don't be lazy, things like that, especially looking in like the Psalms and Proverbs. But the thing is, I already knew that I needed to be diligent. I knew that it was beneficial. I knew that it was a much better alternative than being lazy, and yet I still struggled with it. What I'm going to share with you today are a couple passages that are not just diligence is good, but I think have a little bit more insight on it. And one passage I found that was really insightful and that I have some thoughts on was 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 through 27. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. Everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. Therefore I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in such a way as not beating the air, but I discipline my body and make it my slave, so that after I have preached to others, I myself will not be disqualified. I want to live my life like this passage describes, with all my might going into it. I don't want to live without an aim. I don't want to be beating the air. I want to give my all. I want to run the race so as to win. I definitely don't want to be disqualified. I definitely don't want to forfeit my imperishable wreath for a perishable one. But I know that if some things don't change, then that may be exactly what I'll do. So I guess the question is, how can we prevent that from happening? How can we prevent ourselves from being disqualified? How can we overcome our procrastination, our lack of diligence, our lack of self-discipline. How can we do that? Well, another passage I found that may have some answers for this, and this is not a complete answer, is Hebrews 12. Now, chapter 12 of Hebrews has a lot of great thoughts on discipline. Now, it's just packed full of good things to think about. I'm only going to focus on a few verses. I suggest you read the rest of it. Just start reading Hebrews chapter 12. Go as far as you want. I'm going to focus on verses 11 through 12 because in them I see at least a partial solution to how we can be more diligent. So let me read them for you. All discipline for the moment seems not to be joyful but sorrowful, yet to those who have been trained by it, afterwards it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. Therefore, strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble, and make straight paths for your feet, so that the limb which is lame may not be put out of joint, but rather be healed. First of all, it isn't going to be easy. It isn't going to be happy or fun or joyful all the time. It's going to be sorrowful. It's going to be hard. It's going to take a lot of work. And that's something I never want to hear. It's something we never want to hear. We want things to be easy. But the truth is, living a Christian life isn't easy. And discipline, that's true for discipline, for diligence, for everything. This is just one aspect, and it's not going to be easy because things that are worth it aren't easy. But here's the kicker. It's worth it. You read the next part of the verse. To those who are trained by it, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness. If we can push through, and it is possible, if we can make ourselves disciplined, if we can reach that level, then the peaceful fruit of righteousness, how does that sound? Like, really? That's the goal. What I want to focus on, however, is the advice that the writer gives on how to reach that goal. Two things. Both of these are in verse 12. Therefore, strengthen the hands that are weak and the knees that are feeble, and make straight paths for your feet, so the limb which is lame will not be put out of joint, but be healed. Or in other words, we need to strengthen and support the parts of us that are weakest, the things that we're struggling with. In this case, diligence or achieving discipline or anything like that. Secondly, we need to make straight paths for ourselves. We need to remove distractions and stumbling blocks as much as possible to make it easier for ourselves to avoid doing the things that we don't want to do, or do the things that we do while we are healing. So while we are trying to become more diligent, while we are trying to build up good spiritual habits, we need to remove potential distractions and stumbling blocks. We need to get them out of the way, and that will make it a lot easier. And once I was able to establish those habits, then I wouldn't have to rely on those distractions being gone. I could be strong enough to live around them. For me, that means no more randomly scrolling through things on the internet, just wasting a lot of time, kind of aimlessly, waste a lot of time that way. And another thing is no more watching random kind of stupid YouTube videos, because that's another way I waste a lot of time. And if I do these things, if I stop just aimlessly wasting time on the internet, and instead I live with an aim, intentionally, then I can establish the habits that I need to have. I really wish that I had been able to look through the Bible and read what it had to say on diligence and come up with this secret weapon to completely eliminate procrastination and make ourselves completely disciplined. I wish over a course of weeks and months that I could have applied that to my life and achieved massively positive results, and then shared them with you now, so that you could also be benefited by it. But that is unfortunately not the case. As I began to study diligence, I actually fell down kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole, which is part of the reason why it took me a long time to make this video, because I started seeing that the problem might be more than just a battle between laziness and diligence, procrastination, and self-discipline. I started seeing it as more of a battle of focuses, a battle between things that are spiritual and things that are fleshly. And this battle between spirit and flesh is the kind of the rabbit hole I started going down into. And while I think it's all relevant, and I think quite possibly that the reason why I am not always diligent is not just because of some random issue with distractions. Distractions are a problem, but I think maybe the issue is deeper. Maybe it has more to do with what my focus is in life, and that if I really, really wanted to do good, then I would. I wish I could just solve this problem for myself. I wish I could find a really easy solution, a secret weapon that would just blow it out of the water and make it a non-issue for myself. I wish that could be the way it is for you too, but that isn't the case. What I do have is this, though. I am convicted that something needs to change. I know that I need to change something in my own life going forward. And I have an idea of where to start and an idea of how to do it. And so I'm going to start there, and hopefully, Lord willing, good things will come of it.